Well, hey there, Jimmy. Your father and I would like to talk to you.
Get the f out of my room! I'm playing Minecraft!
Well, okay then, because your father and I just decided that we're going to ship you off to Civil Air Patrol so that you can get some military discipline in your miserable little life.
All right, everybody. So I apologize for the beautiful background. In the background here, we just have a wonderful background. It's very interesting. But anyways, what I wanted to talk about today was my experience in the United States Civil Air Patrol. Now, what the heck is the Civil Air Patrol? You may be asking yourself. And that's a fair question because a lot of people have not heard of the Civil Air Patrol. They don't know what the Civil Air Patrol is, even after being in it for about, was it 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? I'm not sure. Even after all that time, I wasn't quite sure what it actually was or how to explain it to other people. I knew what it was, but I didn't know how to explain it to other people. So, Civil Air Patrol officially is the civilian auxiliary of the United States Air Force, and we're technically considered among the numbers of personnel in the Air Force. And the civilian auxiliary is mainly where the senior members come in. So you have a lot of senior members. A lot of pilots these days are old guys. I actually know quite a few people my age that are going into aviation. So hopefully aviation will continue to thrive. They're definitely in need of pilots right now. A lot of the pilots are kind of aging out. But the thing with Civil Air Patrol is that it allows those pilots to do stuff for the government, for the Air Force. You might be able to do surveying missions. We do inland search and rescue. Some stuff that's reasonably important. In some ways it's almost like a inland Coast Guard, except that we're not like an actual branch, and we don't have obviously the budget and the specialties that the Coast Guard has. But anyways, obviously what I was connected with was the cadet program, which is like kids 12 to 18 or something like that. And so the Civil Air Patrol program, it's hard to explain. I guess the best way that I would explain it is more like a militarized Boy Scouts in some ways. We definitely don't have a focus on the military in terms of combat or paramilitary sort of stuff. It's more about wearing a uniform, learning customs and courtesies, learning in a more of a military style environment, but it's still pretty keyed down compared to the actual military, but that depends on your squadron, and the squadrons would be the local units spread out through your wing, and the wing would be a state, and then you have a region, which is several states, and all that underneath the national commander of Civil Air Patrol. So anyways, you might want to do some of your own research in order to kind of do some of your own research to kind of understand what Civil Air Patrol is. But anyways, this is a lot of introduction, and this is boring. But that's kind of the pain. That's the price you pay when you talk about Civil Air Patrol, because not a lot of people know about it. So sometimes you have to kind of walk them through it. But anyways, I quit Civil Air Patrol about a year ago, 2 years ago, something like that. I was just kind of getting tired of it, and I didn't feel like I was going to be going much farther in the program. And so the cadet program has a rank system, and I got to, I believe it was Master Sergeant. I never became a cadet officer or anything like that, but I had a good go of it while I was there. But anyways, what I wanted to talk about was kind of some of the what Civil Air Patrol is really like. This isn't a Civil Air Patrol public service announcement. This is more like, how was it actually like? I'm like the disgruntled veteran that comes out of the Gulf War or Iraq War or whatever, the war on terror. And he just writes a scathing book talking about all the things that the government doesn't want you to know about the real military experience, right? Yeah. So anyways, in Civil Air Patrol, it's a mixed bag sometimes. It really is a mixed bag. And so much of your experience depends on the people, and it depends on what you decide to put into the program. And in terms of the people, you got a lot of different kinds of people. So you do have people who are very much career focused. They want to go into the military. They might want to go into the Air Force. There's certain aspects of Civil Air Patrol that directly relate to an Air Force career. It can even give you a step up in an Air Force career. I knew a few people that wanted to become Marines. I knew one guy that I think he actually did become a Marine. So you had those really, really serious military types in there. And that could be pretty cool. You know, if you weren't quite as hoorah or oorah as them, or hooah, hoorah, I don't think that's a word for any of the branches. But anyways, if you're not as gun-ho as them, then you might feel like they're a little hard to work with sometimes, maybe, because they're taking it more seriously than you. But then there's also people that don't take it as seriously as you. And those people can be just as detrimental to the experience as well, because you'll also get those kids in there where mom didn't know what to do with them. Dad doesn't know what to do with them. And they're like, Jimmy has way too much free time. All he's doing is playing Fortnite, and he's always griping and moaning about something. Let's see if we can find him some extracurricular activities so that he can be away from school and away from all his bad influence friends. And this cadet program thing looks like it should be a perfect fit for him. So you get a few of those kids in there. And, you get your loafers, your gold bricks, your kids that don't pull their weight in the team building exercises or whatever we're going to call them. You get people who love PT. You get the PT meatheads. You get the kids that are already physically fit, so of course they enjoy PT. The people who don't enjoy PT are the people that need PT. So, like I said, it can be a mixed bag. And when you have a ranking system and school-age children, you get a little bit of school-age drama. Because this is co-ed. This is co-ed, so we got boys and girls. And you see what the issue is. When you have school-age drama with military rank, you get kids pulling rank. You get kids being jerks to other kids because I got this thing on my shirt tab or BDU tab. And it wasn't actually that bad. I didn't really run into situations where there was kids pulling rank. Some might be a little arrogant. There's one kid I really didn't like who was an officer, but nobody likes officers anyways, except other officers. But generally, it's not too bad. But you could easily find yourself in a situation in a squadron where that is a problem, because it all depends on squadron culture. It depends on the makeup of the people in your group. I've been in one squadron where we were a good group of kids, but we also had our kind of gold bricks. We had a lot of new people. We didn't have a really strong cadre, and we also didn't have a very strong senior member component. And that's the thing with senior members. We all know the "okay boomer" meme going around these days. Civil Air Patrol is like the epitome of okay boomer, because you have your senior members. Some of them are young, they're middle-aged, and they're dynamic, and they're wanting to help the squadron out. But then you get your senior, like your senior members, like they're actually older. And, not to hate on them, but sometimes you'll get senior members where it's basically, they're all pilots, or they were all in the Air Force or something. And so basically it just becomes the senior pilots golf club reminiscing about nostalgia club kind of thing. And so it's like, all right, kiddos, you go do your cadet stuff. I'll do a little bit of paperwork. And then we're just going to talk with the other pilots about the weather this weekend and how the flying is going to be, that sort of thing. So senior members can really make or break a squadron. And, Civil Air Patrol is not doing very well, in my opinion. Nobody knows about us. We don't have good advertising. We're not really appealing to this generation. which is too bad because I think this generation, this culture that we're growing up in, it's not, real, the military style, because there's a lot of good things about Civil Air Patrol in terms of what you can learn, how you can better yourself. I learned a lot from it. It was really good for me. But I think the problem is that a lot of kids, they don't care about that. They don't want to be better. They just want to stay home and play Fortnite or Snapchat. I mean, I know Snapchat's not a game, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. Don't call me a boomer. But it's just not. It's harder to wheel kids into that these days versus like the 60s or the 50s or whatever. Fun fact: Lee Harvey Oswald was a Civil Air Patrol cadet. He's the one that we don't talk about, but I'm talking about him. I'll say it. I lost my train of thought. But yeah, like I said, senior members can kind of make or break it. And cadets, we don't have huge numbers, but it's easier to get cadets than it is to get senior members. And I don't blame them. It's hard, when you have a job, finding time for Civil Air Patrol, that's a lot to ask. And if you're retired, you have more time to do it, but you have to want to do it. And I'm not sure if being a senior member probably doesn't appeal to everyone. But yeah, we learned military customs and courtesies, wearing the uniform, marching, stuff like that. And you would get your OCD types that are just, they are uniform experts. They are absolutely anal about uniforms and like where you have your insignia placed and where you have your patches placed, all the little different tips and tricks that you use to make a uniform look really good, how to get your collar pressed flat. I mean, okay, if that's your thing, that's your thing. It's not my thing, I like uniforms. I don't like being anal about uniforms, but you definitely had those types in there. You had, you just think of your typical high school cast of characters and just put them in Air Force uniforms. And you got a fair share of that. We were kids in uniform. We were we were child soldiers. Sometimes my whole human speaking system doesn't work too well. But that was Civil Air Patrol. And there's a lot of cool things you could do. You could fly in airplanes. I went on probably 20 flights in a glider and in a Cessna. I went to encampment, which was basically like a miniature boot camp kind of experience. Broke down and cried like the first 3 days. And I went on SARXs, which would be search and rescue exercises. Those are fun times. And there's a lot of interesting opportunities in between there, like, guard duty at air shows, or I didn't go to it, but I actually even got a invitation to go see artillery fire at a military camp. So don't get me wrong. I know this whole video has been sarcastic in its tone, but Civil Air Patrol is worth checking out. It is pretty cool, and for the things that I did in there, it was fun. And there was a lot of really good experiences in it. There's memories that I have of it that'll probably be around for a while. And like I said, I was joking about it, and there definitely it definitely has its downsides. But in all seriousness, it is a pretty cool program, and a lot of why it isn't popular is because of culture. And I think Civil Air Patrol could do a better job of getting themselves out there. There's just so many resources nowadays to between social media and all that. But it was a good program. It was a good experience, and it's fun to poke fun at it because there are definitely aspects to poke fun at. But this was a 15-minute video, which actually isn't too bad. Easily could have been a half an hour the way I rant. But yeah. And I don't know how to end my videos. I don't know how to end my videos.